Hi, today I want to just point out a tidbit regarding reconciliation, its source, where it comes from, when it was really first introduced, if you will. And that's in the New Testament, and I'm referring to 2 Corinthians 5, and in particular, under the subtitle, The Ministry of Reconciliation. And at 17, it says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come." The whole exercise of reconciliation that Canada is engaging in and using to market, assimilation as a synonym for reconciliation. In this, it's absolutely the same. And that is, if we take the example of the Anishinaabe Nation governance agreement that's being put to a vote this month, February 2020. If we look at that, that's exactly what's happening. The old is gone and dead, if that thing gets passed, and there will be something new, brand new. So it's a real word of caution. Everyone, is quoting this reconciliation. Everyone's on board and saying this is a wonderful thing. Is it? Indigenous nations were never conquered. And Indigenous nations still own underlying title. What can you possibly gain that's more and better than what you have? Put aside the unlawful conduct of Canada's governments. Put aside the priming you to see yourselves as not worthy of carrying underlying title and having the ability to engage in your own self-governance without being interfered with unlawfully by Canadian legislation. Remember, under the Constitution Act 1867, in the division of powers, so to speak, people refer to 91 sub 24 as saying, oh, that means the federal government has power over Indians and lands reserved for Indians. No, the operative language is in relation to. That means that the federal arm is responsible for engaging in the diplomacy. Now, in a situation that we have on the West Coast with the Wet'suwet'en, we're seeing that Canada is not engaging in the diplomacy that's needed. And I have a previous episode explaining that it is indeed an international matter, and that the relationship with an Indigenous nation, as is represented by their governance, is indeed something the federal government is responsible for engaging with in a way that respects not only the treaties where they exist, but also the fact that Canada, the Queen in Right of Canada, for instance, is responsible for continuing that process. And so it's not enough to just say, oh, that's a BC problem. Of course, by trying to convince the world that this is an internal domestic matter, that means that underlying title would be in the province. And yes, then of course, if that were the case, then it would indeed be strictly a BC matter for the British Columbia government to deal with. It's not. So it's important to understand that until such time as you quote unquote get reconciled into and under Canada and become this new thing, the fact is that these very ancient, since time immemorial, nations continue to exist. They're still on their lands. This is where they were placed. This is where their children will be. This is where their future generations will continue to be. This is their land. And as Justin Trudeau has mentioned in his book that I did in a previous episode, he's acknowledging, yeah, we're developing on their lands. We're developing resources that are on their lands. Under what law can you do that? That's all I have to say.